Hello and warm welcome to everyone joining us today. I'm your host Dalvinder Kaur from lovely Professional University. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's topic technological and pedagogical skills for 21st century teachers. Before we proceed further, allow me to introduce the experts of the day. Dr. Nimisha Berry, Professor and Head School of Education, Lovely Professional University. With over 23 plus years of teaching experience, she has published 145 papers and 6 books. Dr. Berry has organized international and national conferences and research received numerous awards. So now I would like to introduce Mrs. Purnima. Welcome, Mrs. Purnima. She is an instructional design expert with over 27 plus years of experience in creating impactful learning content for higher education professionals and learners with the special needs. So now I would like to introduce our alumni also in this webinar, Mr. Abhishek Baral. Welcome, Mr. Abhishek. He is a passionate and dedicated educator specializing in the pedagogy of social science and English from lovely professional university. He is skilled in lesson planning, classroom management, and more. Before we proceed further in today's session, I would like to request everyone for any questions. You can write in the chat box or in the Q&A box, and same will be addressed from my side in the end of this webinar. Now I'm going to hand over this session to our experts, Dr. Nimisha Berry, Mrs. Purnima, and Mr. Abhishek, and it would be an absolute delight to listen from them. Over to you all.
Thank you, Dr. Dalvinder. Okay, so first of all, I would like to welcome Ms. Punya Valaitan and Mr. Abhishek in this session and hope that you will be getting the answers to many of your questions which are there related to the technological and pedagogical skills which are required for 21st century teachers. So before going into the discussion forum, let me discuss about that what basically pedagogical skills are and what are the technological skills which are required for the 21st century teachers. If I talk about the pedagogical skills, basically nowadays the need of the hour which are required related to pedagogical skills is one is critical and creative thinking among the learners. And once you want to inculcate these critical and creative thinking in the learners, you as a teacher need to be well versed with these skills, because if you are not knowing these skills, obviously you will not be able to inculcate that into your learners. Second, the most peak demand nowadays as these conflicts are going on, number of things are going on, is the inculcation of life skills. This is the basic requirement. Along with teaching our content, we have to integrate these life skills into our pedagogy, so that again becomes the need of the hour. Apart from that, when we talk of pedagogical skills nowadays, we require the skill related to making the teaching learning digitalized, making teaching learning interesting, engaging the learners into the classroom, because nowadays there is a lot of disengagement, lot of factors which disengage the learners. So we require those skills by which we can engage the learners into the classroom. And obviously, as we talk about engagement, gamification as a national education policy is also talking about, plays a very great role. That gamification as a strategy has been talked about in national education policy, that by this we can make our learners engaged and sustain their interest into the classroom. When we talk of technological skills, obviously nowadays teachers are not away from that. This has become a need of an hour as we are moving towards globalized context. As post COVID-19 is there, technological skills had become a mandatory part for a teacher. Online teaching learning has become a very common forum for the teachers and students. Time and again, we have to move into online teaching learning platform. Then, apart from online teaching learning platform, for moving into the online teaching learning platform, teacher need to have digital literacy skills. They need to be very well versed with all the digital skills which are required. Then once you are a teacher, you are focusing on online teaching learning, obviously you need the skills to market yourself, the marketing strategies, that what are to be there into the social media. And apart from that, as a teacher, as well as to make your learners learn, when you move into digitalized world, there are a number of ethical concerns which need to be taken, and that skills also need to be there for the 21st century teachers. So with this brief introduction, let us move into the discussion forum, and let us start with the question answer session. For that, I'll be moving into the questions which I'll be asking. Okay, let me stop sharing the screen, and then I'll be moving towards the question. And my first question is with Miss Purnima. Hello, Miss Purnima, are you there? Are you ready with the question for that question? Right. So,
Can you
ma'am,
hear me?
Purnima, ma'am, my first yeah, I can hear you. Purnima, ma'am, my
Okay.
first question to you is that what technological competencies do you consider essential for educators in the 21st century?
Okay. So, technological competencies, like anything, the ability to use tools and the ability to keep learning. So, I don't think technological competencies is what is needed. More than that, what is needed is the ability to adapt and evolve and be flexible. Because when you can adapt, evolve, and be flexible, you will, use tools, right? And there will be no fear of those tools. You will be using. So I don't look at competencies saying that technical competencies, that's a given. All of us, anybody who's working in today's world, needs to have technical competency. Everything is technology driven now, right from ordering groceries or online shopping or learning or even making payments. You're operating using technology. So that's a given. Now, what is the competencies that will allow you to integrate ICT in teaching and learning is your ability to adapt, evolve, right? And you being flexible. Okay, so that is what I see as competencies more than having specific technical competencies. And the thing is that even people who are not in that field, where even people who are not, those who are not teaching, are using smartphones. Why are they using smartphones? How are they using it? Obviously, they've taught themselves to use it, right? Everybody has social media on their phone nowadays. So it's not a question of having specific technical competencies. It's more to do with your desire to use technology in the best way possible, to and integrate that in the teaching learning process.
Okay, yes, very well said, ma'am. That the need is to adapt and be flexible, and the desire to learn. Because nowadays, none of us is escaped from using online platforms. So, how we can
Absolutely.
inculcate it into a teaching learning process? That is a desire. That if we desire, like we are using in our daily process, we can use it in our teaching learning process also.
Absolutely.
Right. So,
Absolutely.
ma'am, as we see nowadays, online teaching is becoming a very common forum, and for that the teachers need to design the instructions in that manner. So my next question to you is that how can instructional design principles support teachers in integrating technology more purposefully into their lesson planning?
Yes. So, see, that is the delta or the shift that has happened, and that teachers have to embrace. That if you are, see, things are very different from the times we were learning, right? At least me. I mean, you may be another two generations ahead. I belong to another generation totally. If we had a good teacher, we were very happy. We learned and we came home, right? But if we didn't have a good teacher, we had no option, right? But now the options are unlimited for our learners. I mean, I have seen my son while growing up, if he found that he didn't understand something in a college classroom or in a school room, they just have to open search for YouTube videos and lectures and listen to that and they learn, right? Now, so you have competition. There is no way you can not use technology to enhance the whole teaching learning process. And integrating it into lesson plan, I don't want it to be a pendulum swing either. It's not that everything is good about online learning or everything has to become online learning. No, there are some situations which require classroom teaching, which require, mentoring, the human teacher's ability to read faces, the body language in a class, in a in a face to face classroom, and on the fly change her strategy, right? This is not possible in if you're talking about self-paced online or video lectures. That's not possible, because that's, then we are talking about asynchronous learning, where you're just listening to that, right? So the advantage that a classroom brings in, we can't negate that either and say, everything about online is great. No. So if there are situations which require classroom teaching, which require a human teacher's presence over there, then there are situations where technology can what do you say, enhance the learning process, like a lot of abstract concepts, probably in physics, or science. Basically abstract concepts are very much so in science. You can make that a lot more clearer using media and technology, animations, right, where you can see things, where you can, or simulations, where you can set certain parameters, the learner can themselves do it. So you have to, as a teacher, when you're creating a lesson plan, the first thing that you need to do, and I think instructional design helps us to do that, is you have to figure out, okay, this content for this learning outcome, what is the best way to present it? Okay, now if it is soft skill content, for instance, behavior, attitude, body language, professionalism, these are best done in a face to face mode, in a physical classroom. But abstract concepts which can be, animated, and we all know about developmental, growth of children, like even 4 months matters in a classroom. So a child who's born in January versus a child who's born in October, there is a developmental gap, right? So maybe, some child is able to grasp that abstract concept, and we all have learned Piaget's, stages of development. So, some kids are able to grasp that abstract concept, but there may be some who are not able to. That's where technology comes becomes useful, and you can use technology to design those lessons and present it using technology. So to sum up, what I would say, it shouldn't be a pendulum swing, that from total classroom you just jump to saying that everything should be online. Online is great, nothing like online, nothing like technology driven training. No, it has to be a judicious mix of both. We have to exploit the features of technology where it's going to enhance the learning process. We should do that. So as teachers, now when we create lesson plans, we must ask ourselves, okay, this content, how which media is best for presenting that. And also they can search. You don't always have to create from scratch. You can curate. There's already a lot of material on the internet. You just find those, pick those, curate it for your learners. So that is where your role as a teacher will change and has to change.
Very rightly said, ma'am. You had answered indirectly the fear which many people are having, that teachers will be replaced by the online teaching and the robots. Obviously, no one can replace teacher, because that human touch, that human
Huh.
feelings, and that human teaching cannot go away. That need
Yeah.
to be there, and for that, face-to-face interaction needs to be there. Because
Yeah,
in
so I would just
online,
like, yeah, sorry, I would just like to add one quote. Then I'm forgetting who said this. I think it was Alvin Toffler. He's a science fiction writer. I think he said, a teacher who can be replaced by a machine should be. So if you think you
Hmm.
can be replaced by a machine, then you should be replaced by a machine. But if you
obviously,
think that you are going to bring in much more than what the machine brings in, you won't be replaced.
yeah, machines can be a support for a teacher. Like you talk about that many students are not able to understand abstract things, so there that
Yes.
machine learning learning is helping a
Absolutely.
teacher to integrate that knowledge, obviously. And
Correct.
for
Correct.
all the life skills and the human emotions, like our parents, teachers are always required in the classroom. So
Absolutely.
four wall classrooms will never go away. Yes.
I don't
Thank you,
think
ma'am.
so.
My next question to you is that what is your approach to teacher training and professional development when introducing new educational technologies?
Okay. That's a good question. Uh, my approach to teacher development, uh, when especially using technology, is I try to tell them that the more you use technology, the more comfortable you will become, and no amount of training, like you can sit in a training. And I am a classic example. I would I digress a little bit and share my story. I was a teacher. I was teaching political science to 11th and 12th in 1994 onwards. Okay, and in 1996 I happened to see an advertisement by NIIT in the newspaper saying they're looking for teachers, and computer knowledge is desirable but not essential. And I had never ever worked on a computer before, because those were the times computers were just coming into the market. They hadn't replaced everything. And I just decided to apply for the job. And I applied, I cleared all the interviews, and I got the job. And that was a time when it was a massive recruitment by this company, NIIT. And I think they had recruited about a lot of teachers, people with a lot of teaching background. But sadly, a lot of them couldn't cope with it. And I'm still here today. So, and I feel the difference probably was that I didn't have the fear of technology. I mean, the fear is not normal. You're using something new, you're doing something new. That amount of, nervousness is normal. Everybody faces it. But I just decided to work on computers. I haven't attended any classes on how to use MS Word or PowerPoint at that time when people used to attend classes to learn how to use that. I never attended those classes, but I still managed. All my work was now on the computer. I had to create Word documents. I had to also create courses on technology subjects. That's what an ID instructional designer does. You are not restricted to one content. It's any content, you'll have to learn it and do it. And I realized that it's the same for everything. We keep telling our children, whether they're students, that the way to overcome fear is to face it, right? So the my approach to teacher professional development is do as much as you can on computers. Do as much as you can on computers. Create, and I have trained a lot of teachers, where I just tell them that go create a blog. There's such a lot of open source free stuff. What is stopping you from using or creating, using those tools? Just go do it, and then get students to, also comment on the blog that you have written. And like they talk about the flipped classroom, you begin with giving them something that they'll do on online first, and then you come to the class and you discuss about that, right? So my approach is just jump into the water. Don't kind of keep trying to put a little foot in the water, and then pulling it back, then a little foot and pulling it back. No, just jump into it, right? And you'll either sink or swim. Chances are, because of our survival instinct, we'll swim. We won't sink. That those chances are less, right? So that's my approach. If I train them, I tell them do everything on the computer. Create a lesson plan where you integrate things which are picked up from the net, etc. So it's not that, while accepting and acknowledging the fact that doing anything new, there is a sense of insecurity always, and there is a sense of nervousness always. So acknowledge that first. You can't say that your fears are not valid. Then you've lost your audience. You have to acknowledge that your fears are valid. Even I had that fear, but see now what I am doing. And it's something that you can also do. So that's my approach to professional development.
Yeah, ma'am, there is a very key takeaway that if you want to overcome a fear, you just face it. So obviously, if we are not facing it, we'll be always having the excuses that we cannot do or we will not be able to go into that. So once you dive into the things, you will be able to learn. So that is what we have
Yes.
taken away from this answer. What ma'am was saying. Ma'am, my next question to you is that how can we ensure that digital innovation remains inclusive
Sorry, can you
of
repeat that?
learners? Yeah,
Um,
like when we talk about digital innovations, basically we see that many learners are not getting the benefit of it. So how can we ensure that digital innovation it remains inclusive and accessible to all types of learners?
Yeah, so that is more of a policy issue, I think, not something that you and I as teachers can address, right? I mean, we can address it in the classroom, probably at that level, but we are talking about scaling, and when you say inclusion, ensuring that people and children in the rural areas also benefit from it, right? Or students who are have some kind of maybe hearing impaired, or those kind of students you're talking about, right? How to make sure. So one part of it is that, like, whenever, at least in the United States of America, there are accessibility guidelines. So whenever you create multimedia material, you have to ensure that it's accessible to the visually impaired or the hearing impaired. So there's something called alternate text, like alt text it's called. If you're designing multimedia and you have using an image, then you have to give alternate text, which is a visual description of that image, right? So so those guidelines and those rules, or whatever has to come at a policy level by the government, and I'm sure they must be working around that. It cannot be done by you or me, right? Similarly, access, in rural areas or areas that are in remote, so again, you have to ensure that there is Wi-Fi connectivity in those areas. Okay, that's again a very policy level thing. And I think we have made a lot of headway, because the very fact that digital payments are happening on phone in the remotest of areas shows that it is now accessible. The internet is accessible in such areas, and the fact that it's cheap. The other thing is about the price that you have to pay. I mean, how expensive is it? Can everybody afford it? So I think now Wi-Fi affordability is also not such a big issue, because we find that even people who come to help us in our houses, they accept digital payments. So that's happening. So to that extent, I feel technology is a great leveler. So now we are living in very, very interesting times, where somebody in a remote corner, without access to a physical classroom, can still learn. Otherwise, how do you explain the Khan Sir phenomena? Now he started physics, I think Khan Sir only, no, physics wala, if I'm not mistaken. He makes those YouTube videos, and there's one lady, I think Dehati Madam, she's called. She teaches English. Her videos are very, very popular, right? She's teaching English, okay, to people using video. So these are all signs that there is inclusion, and technology is helping that inclusion. So whether we make policies or not, technology by nature, it's like water. It will find ways to seep through, through cracks, and wherever it has to reach, it will reach. It will reach, and that reach itself will ensure inclusion.
As you were talking about policy initiatives, so recently in our national education policy, our government has already initiated many schemes for enhancing the digital learning. Like if we talk about PME Vidya, Diksha portal, e-Pathshala, where the entire content is in the form of online learning and the students can scroll. And obviously, the Swim platform is there for the higher education
Yes.
learners from there where they can get the number of things. So basically, these programs are aiming to bridge the digital divide, and they are
Absolutely.
offering the diverse learning opportunities. And
Yes,
as you said, when
absolutely.
it comes to the internet facility, now we are very leveled up. We have the Wi-Fi systems everywhere. Even many of the rural areas are having it, and people are using it for their own personal use. So they can use it for this
Absolutely.
also. And like you were
Correct.
talking about cancer, I'll share one thing. Recently, he visited our university, and I saw the fan following this cancer was having, though he's teaching online. And many of the students from rural areas were just like mad to see the cancer. So that is how
Hmm.
this digital initiative and a teacher motivation and passion has created a means respect for that teacher. So this is not about that in online learning cannot create that respect into the teacher. So that I saw when I met that cancer.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, ma'am, my next question to you is that how do you see emerging technologies like AI and data analytics are shaping the future of these personalized learning platforms? Like AI is sweeping into means a very deep dive is there. So, how these AI and data analytics is shaping the future of personalized learning?
Okay, so I think there is a lot of talk and chatter and hype around personalized learning now. But whether technology will actually deliver that kind of personalized or adaptive learning, we'll have to wait and watch. Okay, because even earlier, whenever the first time when online learning began, also people made a lot of talk about, oh, classrooms are going to disappear, and everything is going to happen online now, etc. And so every time there's new technology, there's also a lot of hype around it. Okay, and then and there was a time when, because I have been part of that journey, I think right from the inception of online learning, I have been a passenger, on that train. I got into it on the first stop, and I'm still traveling on that train, and I'm still learning. So at that time, I remember a lot of companies got into the market and said, we'll make digital content. And, there was suddenly there were these unicorn companies coming up. Mm, So my fear is that AI is also in that phase now. That people are saying that, AI is like the panacea for all problems, learning problems. And that is not so. And now also you will find a lot of companies saying, oh, we have personalized learning content for you. But honestly speaking, nothing is more personalized than a one-to-one session, right? Which has also been, I'm sure you would have heard of Benjamin Bloom. He's known for Bloom's taxonomy, but more than that, he wrote a paper on on comparing different kinds of learning, and in which he concluded that the one-on-one tuition is the most personalized and the most effective, right? And this is a time when there was no online learning, so that one-on-one tuition with a teacher, with a mentor, so what will happen with technology is that there will be a lot of access to um, you know uh, um, a base level kind of information, right? So we'll all at least have access to that, the basic information, in any subject. It could be mathematics, it could be physics, it could be chemistry, biology. That access, like if I ask chat gpt, it will give me that information, right? But which is an AI driven platform. But the thing is, there's always an area, like as a learner, I would have a blind spot that I don't even know what I don't know, isn't it? I mean, there is an area that I don't, as a learner, I don't know what I don't know. Now, who is the person to tell me that? That would be a mentor. Chat GPT or AI will help as far as I know what I don't know, and I want answers to that. So then I can key in my question in Chat GPT, and I'll get the answer to that. But what about the area, where I don't even know what I don't know? And a lot of children are like that. Somebody has to guide them. You can't leave them alone with Chat GPT. Okay, at least not at this point in time. So there will be a lot of snake oil salesmen who will say, oh, we have created this whole personalized learning thing or adaptive learning thing. And I say that because I am in the industry, and I know that it is not easy to create that kind of personalized learning. It is expensive, it requires collaboration between subject experts, good instructional design expert or pedagogical experts. It requires media people, graphic media, maybe not so much because the AI interface is very text driven, right? But it requires a collaboration between a lot of experts to come up with that level of personalized learning. So we are not there yet. It is a dream. We have to. So AI hasn't got that maturity as yet, right? So and being in the industry, I do know that creating that will require a lot of it is expensive as of now, and you require a lot of resources to get together, collaborate to create that kind of thing. So we haven't reached there yet. It's a good goal to have. How we'll reach there, when we'll reach there, I don't know. See, there was this whole thing about gamification also some years back, right? But the greatest games or the good games are very expensive. How many schools have been able to replicate that? How many individuals have been able to replicate that kind of gamified learning? It's only because it's an expensive proposition. It is not a very cheap proposition to do that. So at while personalized learning, so personalized to that extent that yes, I mean, I have a question, you're answering my question, right? And then I'm telling you that give me some exercises in this topic, it is giving me some exercises to that topic, right? To that extent it's personalized. And again, that's different from adaptive learning, adapting to the learner's needs and understanding, right? And also there is a school of thought that says it is not great to have things that personalized because it makes you inflexible also. Like, if a child says, oh, I learn only through games and I learn only through games, right? And what happens is, we all, as teachers and education professionals, we know about cognitive load. Okay. And adding a game to content, you're adding cognitive load, extraneous cognitive load. And we know that the working memory is easily distracted, so the child may be focusing on other things and not actually on the content. Okay, so that again, for me, it's always middle path and balance. Don't kind of reject it, but don't kind of think that it is the savior and the answer to every problem in the learning ecosystem.
Yes, ma'am. Like in the means early part of the talk, also you said that Chat GPT cannot take away the qualities of teacher like empathy, adaptability, and ability to build that meaningful relationships. And obviously, the persons who are developing the Chat GPT are also the people. So human touch will never go away. So
Yeah,
that also answers the question of that the fear of teachers that by using technology our role will be ending is also there. That no, technology will never end the role of teacher, rather it will increase the role of teacher. You have to be more well versed. And like we know about the theory of Vygotsky, where it says that it is a human who is able to identify the ZPD, that is zone of proximal development. Chat GPT will not be able to identify that ZPD of a child. Only it can give the
absolutely.
commands. So that is where the role of teacher will always remain.
Yeah, so I would call it MEC training, like, okay, you want to eat burger, you can go to McDonald's, but that burger will taste this exactly the same wherever you go, whether it's Delhi, Bombay, so I call this kind of training MEC training, but we still, when we want to eat a good food and feel really contented and happy, maa ke haath ka khana, there is no competition there with
Yes,
McDonald
Abhijit.
burger. So Chat GPT is going to throw out the same thing. If my prompt and your prompt is almost the same, the output is going to be the same for you as well as for me, because Chat GPT is trained that way, right? It's trained on existing data. So it's going to take away the uniqueness. It's going to take away the element of surprise and wow and all that, that insight that sometimes you get from a real guru. Sometimes a guru gives that insight. And that happens because learning is a very dynamic process. So as we are discussing, like I am not reading from a script over here, but we are creating content as we are discussing these questions, isn't it? We are just realizing things. So it's so dynamic. So if you take away the dynamism from the learning process, then you will have something like a McDonald burger. Your learning will also be that.
So, ma'am, we have one more panelist with us. He is our
Yeah.
alumnus, Mr. Abhishek Beral. So, we'd like to
Hi.
hear something from him also.
Sure.
So, Abhishek, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here only.
Okay, Abhishek, I would like to ask few questions from you also. Like you had means recently qualified your B.Ed and then you are into your PG and you have got the job into Army Public School. So,
Yes.
how do you apply strategies like these flipped classrooms, blended learning, gamifications, which are nowadays means you can say at the top of the priority for everyone. They talk about this into your teaching context.
Thank you for your question, ma'am. As a social science teacher, I actively incorporate innovative strategies like flipped classroom, blended learning, and gamification to enhance students' engagement and deepen understanding. So in flipped classroom model, I share video lectures or reading material in advance for allowing students to explore key concepts at their own pace. And this also frees up my time also for collaborative discussion, debates, and real life case studies that promote critical thinking. And blended learning I integrate through use of interactive maps, virtual tools, historical sites, and then online quizzes which complement traditional teaching methods. And this helps me to cater different learning styles and enhance the students by using the students can revisit the content as needed. And for gamification, I design activities such as history themed scavenger hunt, then role play, then mock parliament, and point based challenges where students earn badges for completing tasks. So these methods not only make learning enjoyable but also encourage active participation and retention in the classroom.
Okay, so like ma'am was also talking about that this technology cannot take away the teacher. So means it is a teacher who is providing the technological integration by providing the content to the students for studying at home. But in classroom, you are making that discussion forum, which cannot be possible without the help of teachers. So yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am,
So,
exactly.
Abhishek, what steps do you take to promote digital equity among your students? Like we're talking to Madam also. So, particularly those who have limited access to technology at home, you must be having few students like that. So, what do you do for them? Like you're using
uh,
flipped classroom, blended learning. So, how you cope up with that matter?
Okay. So I promote digital equity in classroom by providing both digital and printed resources to the students, and this allows students with limited access to use school facilities. And I also encourage collaborative activities so all students can participate equally and offer flexible deadline when needed. And I also stay with parents to understand and support each student's situation.
But like there is a challenge, some of the students might be coming to you, like we were discussing with madam also, that we don't have wi-fi system or we don't have mobiles at home. So that
Yes, ma'am.
condition, how you overcome that kind of challenge when you are moving into your flipped classrooms or blended learning?
Yes, ma'am. To those students, I can provide printed material so that they
Right.
can read that.
So
Yes,
means
ma'am.
you are using the supplementary teaching aids and the teaching methods apart from the technology to include and to make every student feel inclusive into the classroom.
Yes, ma'am.
Abhishek, how do you adapt your instructional methods to support diverse learning while ensuring the educational effectiveness is not vanishing off?
I adjust my teaching to support all students by using different kind of activities in the classroom, like videos, discussions, and group work. I also make sure to give extra help to students who need it, and offer more challenges to those who are already ready and and the students their mental level is good as compared to other students. And I also use regular feedback and assessments to see how everyone is doing and make changes to keep them engaged and learning effectively in the classroom.
Abhishek, can you share some examples where you have used certain digital tools and that has significantly improved the student engagement or it has helped in achieving students something? Means we talk about digital technology, Google Baba is there nowadays, but can you tell certain examples where these tools have significantly improved the students' achievement or engagement
Yes.
into the classroom?
In my geography classroom, ma'am, I taught one concept of satellites to students. The mainly satellites work like they revolve around the Earth, artificial satellites. So I went to YouTube. I opened one video of a live satellite and I showed to them, and they were really fascinated by how this is working, how this is revolving around the Earth. And I also used Google Earth during a lesson on geography and historical landmarks, and it made a big difference in the classroom. Students were very excited to explore real world locations virtually, which helped them understand the topic better. And the visual and interactive experience kept them more engaged in the classroom, and their project work also showed improvement, and they are now more understand about the topic
Yeah,
after
nowadays
seeing the
government has also opened a portal of virtual lab. O labs is there. Like it is not possible for a teacher to go everywhere and to make the students physically visit everything. So
yes ma'am.
obviously this digital tools and virtual classrooms and the virtual field visits are helping a teacher a lot in making the students understand and believe in those concepts. Right.
Yes ma'am.
Abhishek, what criteria do you use when you select any technology tools or edtech tools? Like how you evaluate their impact into your classrooms? One is that what is the criteria for selecting it, and how you evaluate whether they are impactful into your classrooms or not.
Ma'am, while choosing edtech tools, I look for ones that are easy to use and support the lesson goals. That is main point. That is the main point, and match my students' learning level also. I also make sure they encourage participation and allow for creativity or collaboration. And to evaluate their impact, I observe students' engagement in the classroom, check the quality of their work, and use feedback and quick assessment to see if learning has improved or not in the classroom.
Okay, Abhishek, can you give one means any real feedback from your students where you are using educational technology tools and your students have given you a certain feedback that they were satisfied?
Yes, ma'am. Nowadays, students are very active, And one day I was, teaching one of the history lesson by using images, and the students are already, one of the student he already saw one video related to that in the YouTube, and he, said me in the class. I asked that, have you understood this topic? He suggested me that, sir, you can teach. I have, watched one video, and that video, covered all of, content that you have taught here. So you can, play that video in the classroom tomorrow, and other student can also see those points.
Okay, nice, Abhishek. Hearing to you that you are using technology into your classroom and making your students learn. Ma'am, my last question to you is like Abhishek is also into the teaching learning process. He talked about many things of using the technology. So, there are some common myths or fears among the teachers about using technology, like in the start you were talking about. So, what are those fears and what you suggest that they can overcome these fears? Ma'am, you are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, so some of the fears stem from, see what happens, in a teacher-student relationship, right from the beginning of time, it's always been seen that the teacher should know everything. Okay. And I think the fear stems from there. Like you, in a classroom of students, I am the teacher, so I am supposed to know everything. And what if I go wrong? Right. So I think the first step to overcome this is one real fear, because you are viewed like that by the students, that you are infallible, especially as a teacher in a teacher classroom dynamic. And I think you can overcome that by actually collaborating with your students. Sometimes, because kids, they are have grown up with technology, they know and use technology far better than we do it. So there's no harm, you can assign a project to them, and then get them to present that. And when you do that, you can accept also, or you can, call over a student and ask the student to show you how to do something. And I think a lot of teachers are doing that also. It's not that they're not doing so. That is the step that they have to take, to overcome that. And as I said, it stems from the kind of position a teacher is given in society, by her students, by the students' parents, by everybody, that you have to know more. Now, yes, I need to know more, or I should know more about the domain, right? And my domain may be chemistry, but that doesn't mean that I have to know more about technology. That is something you have to demarcate that in your head, right? And I think that fear, or that bridge, if they can cross, then it makes it all the more easier. But taking that first step is what. And then, as I told you earlier, to overcome and the other myth or the fear that they have is that I lose control, of the whole teaching learning process. So then you have to find out ways to, yeah, or I will lose my, the position that I have if I allow students to, help me out or whatever. So, tackling that in your head is the first thing to do. And then approaching the students, and if you're whatever, if wherever you are not able to. The other thing I have learned, and I speak from experience because I was one of those people in a technology company who had no background training in technology, is that everybody is figuring it out. It's not that there are, somebody is a great expert. They could be an expert, maybe they are some 10 steps ahead of you. When it comes to using tools, I'm talking about that. All of us, whenever we use a new software, we are figuring it out how to use it. Okay, and the more you use it, the more comfortable you become with it. And having been like, for example, I have a YouTube channel, and I share a lot of videos on teaching, learning, instructional design. Okay, so initially the whole video shoot was done by someone. I had outsourced it to someone, but now I shoot my own video, I edit my own video using Canva, and I post it out there. Okay, so how did I learn it? Right, I learned it by using. That's what I say: create, 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 use. That's the only way to overcome the fear, right? And initially it took me a longer time to do it, because I'm not a professional, I'm not a pro in it. But the more I use it, the more comfortable, and I realize, oh, it has this feature also, oh, it has this feature also. Okay, so my and it's basically, I say, I'm not, I practice what I preach. So if I'm telling you go do it, I'm only telling you that because I'm doing it myself, I'm practicing it myself. I'm not just preaching. I'm not saying go use the tool. I am using Canva. I use Canva to edit my videos. I shoot my own videos using my iPhone, right? That's using technology. So, like, and I feel there's so much opportunity over here. Like chemistry, for instance, we used to, we teach children separating mixtures. But for a child in his or her head, that separating mixture becomes too abstract. Right, now you just take a video of churning butter to separate the buttermilk and the butter. You teach it to them as chemistry in the kitchen. You take a video on your own. I mean, you don't even have to edit that, and you just show it to the students. It makes it so much more easier, for the students to understand that, yeah, this is chemistry happening in the kitchen, and separating mixture is not such an abstract thing. It is, the temperature, the medium, the water, once you have that in place and you churn it, your mixture is separated, right? So you have this right in your hands, and it's up to you to make use of it.
Yes.
And you
Um,
have to be passionate. See, the thing
yes.
I'll say that is that if you are a passionate teacher, and that is for any job, okay, whatever job you're doing, if you're passionate, you'll do a good job. So as a teacher, if you've become a teacher because you enjoy it and you're passionate about it, you'll find these ways. Like, I feel that it would be such a great time to be a teacher now. I could take these small videos, but I have digressed and got into the instructional design field, you know. But I feel that it would otherwise have been such a great time to be a teacher, that everything you could just show to the students.
Yeah, very rightly said. When I enter into my first classroom every year, my first line is teaching is a passion. So unless and until you have a
Yes,
passion, if you are coming by pressure, you
correct,
can never become a good teacher. If you have
correct,
a passion for
correct.
teaching, only then you can become a good
Yeah,
teacher. And secondly, I read
absolutely,
somewhere that if you want to make a child learn to ride a bicycle, you cannot make a child to read from a book and make him ride a bicycle.
absolutely.
Obviously, you will have to make him sit on the bicycle. So that is what is
Very
required
true.
to get technology.
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much to Madam Purnima Valayathan and Mr. Abhishek Baral. We had a very nice discussion. Now over to you, Mr. Nalvinder.
It was a great session. Thank you so much, our experts, Dr. Nimisha Berry, Mr. Abhishek, and Mrs. Pudin. If anyone have any questions regarding admissions, they just write us at admissions@lpu.co.in, and you can do WhatsApp chat with us. Our WhatsApp number is 98525 69000. I'm repeating the number. It's 98525 69000. Thank you so much to all our today's experts. As we come to the end of this webinar, I want to express my deepest gratitude to our experts for sharing their valuable insights and expertise with us. Your presence, enthusiasm, and active participation have made this experience truly special. Hopefully, the attendees found this webinar to be valuable and will be able to utilize the information for better decision making regarding admissions. If anyone wants to access this webinar again, they can visit our website, that is lpu.in, or can be accessed on YouTube also. Stay connected with us for future webinars. Until we meet again, with the permission of my seniors, I would be signing off this webinar. Take care and goodbye. Have a beautiful day.
Bye bye. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank